Welcome to Detroit's Darkest Times. This segment is about unemployment and what to do if this happens to you. First thing is evaluate your situation. Second thing is to see how much spare cash you have. Third thing is get on the web and find out about government loans for small businesses. Then what you want to do is you want to check with Amazon. You can do this online. Check with Amazon and see what, if you want to sell certain items, you can be attached to certain items. And every time Amazon sells something, you will get a percentage. And then I know some people that actually, they're a part of selling boats, big boats, yachts, planes. It's just unlimited what kind of stuff you can get involved in selling. And the bigger item you sell, the more money you're going to make. So first off, you got to do your research on how to get involved in that stuff. Look into it. But what I'm really wanting to put out is them are some things you can do, but if you happen to get unemployed, or if you're unemployed at this moment, my recommendation is if you're already unemployed and you got some spare funds, you don't need a lot of money. If you got some spare funds to get started with, start your own business. And I recommend food and beverages. But some people, do T-shirts and, different items like that. But I know food and beverage is a good thing to get into, and you can get this started on the weekend and see how it goes. And it just depends on where you're at, in your situation, But most of the time, getting started in a business just takes a very little. I mean, I'll let you know how little it takes, just in case you're wondering. You could actually go and buy cases of water, bottles of water, put them in a cooler, go somewhere where it's real busy, where there's a lot of people at. And the ideal thing is go to your riverfronts where people are jogging and riding bikes and things like that. And then you can just sell water, basically. But you can put other things in there like Gatorade, whatever. It just depends on what your financial situation is. But you could do that and make a killing over time, It's just where your mindset is. But no matter what you're doing in business, you got to be somewhere where there's a lot of people at, because that's what's going to feed your business. So, I have seen some people in the past, they'll start a business in an area where there's people, but it ain't just a lot of traffic, and it just doesn't do well, and it's just a waste of their time, money, and effort. But you got to approach it the right way, And so, that being said, that can get somebody started just selling bottles of water. And then you could, if somebody's in your household that can fix good meals, usually in every household there's somebody that can make a pretty good dish. And you could start like that, making plates and then selling beverages. And then you just got to go get it all prepared, go somewhere and just see what you can do, And in some areas, you may need a permit, and in some areas, it just depends on what the situation is. Whatever the law is in your area, that's basically, you need to check that out too. But it's just, there's a lot of people. When I used to work in the past before I retired, I've talked to a lot of people that came and went at the company I worked at, and they all had an ideal to get a business going and things of that nature, and they used to talk about it a lot. And I told a lot of people, I said, a lot of people's problem is they got an idea for a business, but they won't make the move to put your foot in the water just to see what happens. Because, I will say all businesses are gambles, but the gamble is to try to get your own business going where you become a boss and you don't have to, clock in for somebody or work for somebody and things of that nature, which a lot of people don't like to do, but you got to do whatever it takes to make money to survive on. But my recommendation is if you're unemployed and if you're just in a situation where you have to go get some employment, that's cool too. But why don't you get this employment? And this is for people that's already employed too. Why don't you get the employment? Make sure if you're tired of, hitting a time clock for somebody, make sure you do something on the weekend, like a business, and use your weekends like that, and then you can enjoy stuff in the evening hours and use your morning during the day to do the business, whatever it may be that you want to do. But a lot of times I recommend beverage and food because this is something everybody's got to have. But some people just decide to do T-shirts or something like that, and you can do that. And but you don't really, you could do that at maybe a flea market or something if you're trying to sell T-shirts or knickknacks or something like that. But this day and time, I don't really know what a booth would cost at a flea market. But I know back in the day it was pretty cheap to do. But everything's so high these days. If you're trying to do a business or trying to get started in a business, you don't want to spend a ton of money trying to do a business, and you got to spend. What I mean by that is you don't want to go rent a building, pay a light bill, water bill, phone bill, and all that. Not unless you got the funds to actually back that up. Because sometimes when you get a business started, like say you're trying to do a restaurant, sometimes when you do that, you need a good amount of money, which you could probably get a government loan to do a small business. You just got to do your research and look into it. But sometimes when you start a restaurant, you may have to keep it open for a good while before you actually start seeing money, And it's just like that. And then I know I have some friends that in the past they opened up a restaurant and they spent $200,000 to open up a restaurant. And this thing lasted 2 years and then it was over. And their problem was they started a restaurant in the area that it wasn't a lot of people, And depending on what kind of business you want to start, you got to have the money to back it up. And if you're just starting out and you ain't really got money, you know what I mean? The best thing to do is sell food and beverages, and like I said, you can get a cooler full of bottles of water and go down to the riverfront, and you can sell water all day long. Especially people who's jogging and riding bikes and stuff like that. And then most people, they may take a drink with them when they're riding bikes or jogging. But the thing is, if they see you setting up there every day, they're going to know when they leave their house, they ain't got to take none. They just say, I'll just take a few bucks with me and I can just buy the water from the water person down at the river, or Gatorade, or whatever you're trying to sell. So that's just one option. And you can also do, like I said, do food. And if people like your food, you can just start selling plates of food and stuff like that. And if it grows good, then you can do some type of building or some type of trailer or some type of food truck or something like that. But really, when you first get started, you don't want to spend a ton of money just trying to do a business, because you're going to be in a hole, spending a lot of money like that. And it's going to, before you start seeing money, it's going to take a long time. So a lot of people approach businesses the wrong way. They mean well and they're trying to do the right thing, but it's just sometimes they just put in a ton of money and it ain't a good return. Sometimes it collapses and you just finally have to shut it up, close it up, because, it's just, doing a business is a gamble, but you got to know how to approach it. You got to know that you can't spend a ton of money when you first start. Not unless you just got a ton of money to burn. If you got a ton of money to burn, then that's a different ball game. But I'm just talking about the working class people that's just trying to get ahead in life and just tired of working for somebody, tired of hitting a time clock, stuff like that. Or you became unemployed and you got a little money put away, this might be an option for you, And the reason I say that, because like I said, I've worked at a company and I've seen a lot of people come and go at this company. And I had the opportunity to talk to a ton of people, and because they ended up being my helper, and stuff like that at the company. And most of them all had ideal to start some type of business. And I would just tell them that, sometimes you just got to put your foot in the water and just see how it is. But I did tell them that everything I'm saying on this video, you got to start out small, no matter if it's selling just water and Gatorade and stuff like that. And start out like that, and you'll be amazed if you go to a busy area like the riverfront or where there's a lot of people at. You'll be amazed over time you'll do really well. But when you first do it, you might not do too good, at the beginning, but you got to be there every day and you got to put the effort in. And once people see you there, they're going to know that you're going to be there every day. So they're going to quit bringing their own drink, and they'll say, oh, I'll just get one down at the river, whatever. And they'll just bring a few bucks with them, whatever. So, but also I want you to check your laws and make sure you don't get yourself in no trouble neither, because sometimes you got to have a permit in certain areas and stuff like that. So you want to check into all that to make sure you are covered, and you're doing it the right way. And then if you go get your business license at the courthouse, it's not expensive at all to do it. you know. And then also I want to let you know that the way businesses work is once you do a business and then you get your license and stuff like that, at the end of the year, you're going to get a letter for taxes on your business. And it's going to be an enormous amount of money. And if it's your first business, you're going to trip out. But the reason is because they don't know how much money you made. You know what I mean? So all you do is you just take that letter, go down to the place, and you tell them how much money you made, and then they'll give you the real amount of taxes that you owe. But the letter they send out, it's got a big number on it, and it's just part of the process. You know what I mean? But you ain't gonna have to pay that kind of money. You just take the letter down there and tell them how much you made, and then they'll figure out how much you owe in taxes, and that's would be the situation. You know. So people who don't know that, I wanted to put that in there because that's very important. Because there's probably people in the past that did a business and got a license and then got the tax paper, and they probably just folded up right then and there, thinking that was how much money they was going to have to pay. But that ain't it. It's just a random letter they send out for taxes. It'll have a giant number on there, and you just go and let them know how much you made, stuff like that, and the whole ball game changes after that. So it's not really that difficult. It's just part of the process, and as long as you're doing everything on the up and up, you'll be good. But that's why I always just recommend beverage, food, you know things like that. But I know a lot of people that sells all different kinds of stuff, so it just depends what you want to sell. But you got to realize that when you want to sell something, you want to sell something that people need all the time. You know what I mean? And that's why it takes you right back to food and beverage. And also, you can go to your local mall, no matter what state you're in, what city you're in. You can go to your local mall, and if you got a few bucks put away where you want to do a decent business, you can get you a spot in the mall and along the walkway, because the stores in there are real expensive, but you'd have to have a good chunk of change to get a store. But if you get a government loan to get started, then that's a whole new ball game. But I'm just talking about if you just got money put aside and you find yourself unemployed, or you're at work and you're just tired of hitting the time clock, and you got money put away that you want to start your own business. And this channel, Detroit's Darkest Times, they just try to motivate people to be a boss. And because I know from experience that people just don't. A lot of people's got jobs that they just don't want. They'd rather just be doing their own thing and making money like that. So I'm just speaking. This channel just tries to motivate people. And like I said, you can get started on the weekend if you're in a position where you definitely have to have employment. You could, get started like that and just do it on the weekends and just see how it goes, and let it grow like that, you know. So even if you have to have employment, you could do both. You know what I mean? You could work and do business on the weekend just to up your game, until you're able to just not hit a time clock for nobody. Because it's real important to, get your own thing started, and then you'll see that later you can do whatever you want to do. You can take a vacation when you want to do it. You're just free to do a lot of other stuff if you're your own boss. And being a boss is number one. And then also I tell people a lot of times, people don't realize this, but you've probably seen this, and I'm gonna explain it. Some people has real good jobs where they're making like $30 an hour, or above. And then these people, they they live large because they got good money coming in and stuff. Then you see them at the store. They're buying the most expensive water. They're buying the most expensive energy drink and all this stuff, because they got money, a little bit of money. But the thing is, they're really making a bad mistake. Because the thing is, you never know if, you ever heard that saying, a good thing don't last forever? And you just never know what the future holds. You know what I mean? You might feel secure in your employment and feel like, you're good, but anything can go wrong. So it's important to save money while you're making good money. And what I did in the past is when I make good money, I would just act like I was like working at Burger King or something where I wasn't making that good money. You know what I mean? Not nothing against Burger King, but I know they only pay a certain amount of a certain amount of money, per hour. So if you're making 3 times that amount or 4 times that amount by hour, just basically what I'm saying is just make like you're not making a lot of money. And this will give you an opportunity if you can budget off of a certain amount of money, you could put all that other money away. And then this can help you get started in a business later. Or you could just stack your funds, and then when you retire, you'll be good. You can just enjoy life and you won't even have to worry about anything. So it's just a number of things that take place that you have to consider and think about. And then some people might be cool with just being employed and don't want to do their own business and stuff like that. And that's cool too. If that's what you want to do, that's good. But here at Detroit's Darkest Times, we just try to motivate people to try to do better, you know. And a lot of people out there does have employment, but it doesn't pay much. So all you're doing is just making money, giving it away, making money, giving it away. What I mean by that, you got to pay bills and stuff too. And the money that you're making, once you pay your bills and stuff, there ain't really nothing left. So that forces people to do 2 jobs. And there's no way in the world that somebody should have 2 jobs in America. But they do, but I'm just saying it shouldn't be that way. If you had a job in America, it should pay a decent wage where you could have a decent living. Also, I recommend to people, some people might be against this, but I recommend it. If you are working today and you're not in the union, like got a union job, you're at the wrong job. Because if you go seek you a job in a union And ladies, this is for y'all too, because you got the carpenters union, the painters union, the uh, advertising union. You got a ton of different unions you could look up, and women are in these categories too. And there's women out there making a lot of money. And what you could do if you wanted to, just to make it easier on you, could just find somebody on these platforms that's got a union job, and they can tell you what to do and stuff to get involved in a union company. And the reason I'm saying this, because this way you're going to make a good wage. If you feel the need to be employed by somebody, you'll find you'll make a good wage. You have good medical insurance, and it's just a win-win, you know. And you got a lot of people out there that's against the union, but everybody's free to have their opinion and stuff like that. But if you do what I'm telling you to do, you'll thank me later. And you'll see that you got a better way of living. You'll have money to pay your bills and have money to enjoy your life. You know what I mean? So, because it's just that much money involved versus somebody working for all these odds and end places, and they're just barely paying people enough to come to work every day basically, and that's about it. And then it's just something to think about. Even if you have to take one day off of work just to check into what I'm talking about, whether it be trying to get a union job or just trying to start your own little business or whatever. But like I said, depending on what your situation is, because you could start your own little business on the weekend when you're not working, if you have to keep being employed by somebody due to all your bills or whatever. So I don't want to steer you down the wrong path, but I'm just trying to tell you that if you're struggling and stuff like that, and you're just sick and tired of going to this company and getting mistreated and disrespected and all that, just keep that in mind. Or just set yourself up real good first and then make your move. You know what I'm saying? So it's real important, to progress yourself into a better life, you know. Because there's a lot of people that go to work every day and they just ain't happy, because the thing is they're just not making enough money. And that's sad to say in America. People, they got so much going on over here, so many businesses and all that, and a lot of them don't want to pay a good wage for people to live, and everything's so expensive these days that you just got to make some good money, whether you're employed or you have your own business or what the case may be. It's just real important to make decent money where you can pay your bills and still be able to eat good and still be able to go somewhere if you decide you want to take you and your family somewhere, whatever. It's just important for this to happen. And the way this is going to happen is through you. When you make the step to make your life better, it'll get better. But you really got to make the step to do so. And then some people get a job and they're just tied into the job and they just don't feel like they got time to do anything or better themselves or whatever. But if it takes it, take one day off to do whatever it is you need to do. Check into the union jobs, or if you wanted to do a business and check into what all you got to do your business, or, whatever. Just try to make your life better and try to, you know, prosper to a good situation, because it all depends on you, because ain't nobody gonna, ain't, once in a blue moon, something will come around where somebody will help somebody really well and put them in a good spot. But that's just once in a blue moon. You know what I mean? So it's really up to you. So if you would just, you know, do what I'm telling you to do, you could thank me later. Because I'm telling you, I ain't going to steer you wrong. I'm going to tell you the best way to go. And because I want everybody as a whole do well in life. So anyone that's listening to this, I hope you take this to heart and really think about your situation. And then some people will be like, well, I'm good where I'm at, because they're making real good money versus the ones that's not making good money. But still, them people there, they got issues too, because I've seen it many years that where they're making real good money and they're balling all the time, spending money and all that. And if something goes south and they lose their job or something like that, and then they're like, damn, I wish I would have saved some of that, all that money that I made, and they just burnt through it. So people that's making good money, please, and there's people out there that knows how to save and's got a little nest egg put away and stuff like that, and that's cool. But there's a lot of people out there that make real good money that just, spend it quick as they get it. You know what I mean? So them are the people that, needs discipline as far as like I said, you making real good money, you need to just act like you ain't making real good money and put some of that money up, because you may need it down the road. And if you're burning through it, it really doesn't matter how much money you're making. If you have some big event that you need to take care of and you ain't got money to cover it, and you're making $25 an hour, $30 an hour, or something like that, you know. So I'm not trying to rag on nobody, but I've just seen it happen time and time again over the years with different people. So, here at Detroit's Darkest Times, we try to keep it 100. We try to give good advice, and if you got any comments, put your comments below, and basically just stay with Detroit's Darkest Times, and you'll do well if you go by our blueprint. You'll do well. It's guaranteed. That being said, we're going to call it, and we appreciate everybody listening. We do want you to subscribe, hit the like and the notification bell, and support the channel. The cash out is FC313. Oh, it's money sign FC313. And then the PayPal is DDT313. If you want to support like that, you can. But if you can't do that, you just want to support, you can just subscribe to the channel. But people who support the channel with the Cash App or the PayPal, we use the money a lot of times to help other people and stuff like that, because we just want to see everybody do well. You know what I'm saying? And we like to, give people good advice, try to guide them in the right path, things like that. So we hope that people take this audio to heart. And if you're in this situation and you want to get out of it, Go by this blueprint. You'll be good. That being said, we appreciate everybody, and we're out.